Hello. Welcome to Media Queen TV. We have a special masterclass for you today. My name is Aldwyn, Altuney. Welcome, wherever you're joining us from right now on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and X. Welcome. And we're going to be chatting about marketing magic for podcasters today with our special guest, Darren Saul. Hello, Darren. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Aldwyn. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'm very excited because I know how experienced you are in this field and people are going to absolutely love this. So for those who don't know about Darren, he is a serial podcaster, a strategist, a trainer, a coach, a keynote speaker, and student of human attention. He started heavily utilizing the power of podcasting to build his photography business and was so amazed with the results, he's never looked back. And he's now an absolute podcast junkie. He consults with organizations to help them get serious business results, integrating podcasting into their marketing strategy. And he says that podcasts are not just a nice to have anymore, it's a must have. And Darren has a special presentation he's going to be delivering, and we will be welcoming any questions that you might have as we go along today. So please do pop your questions into the chat, and we'll come back to those at the end. And now I will hand it over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Aldwyn. Well, thank you very much. Thanks very much for having me, everybody. I hope you're enjoying and I hope you're going to get a lot out of this session. And as Aldwyn said, we're going to make this quite interactive. So I'd love anybody to throw any questions in the comments if you need to, and I'll be looking at those periodically through the session and then coming back to answering some of those as we go along, as well as having a good 10, 15 minutes of Q&A at the end if we need to. But let's kick off. So podcasting, it's an incredible tool these days that is getting more and more traction and more use every single day. There are more people setting up podcasts. There are more people listening to podcasts. There are more people being a guest on a podcast. But being on a podcast or just having a podcast is not enough anymore. You have to know how to use it. And that's the key to this session. It's really marketing magic for podcasters. How do we market and get leverage out of our show and not just leave it up to those, 10 or 15 people or family and friend members that might get to see or listen to your podcast. So we're going to go a bit further today, and we're going to have a little bit of a session on how to strategize, how to leverage, how to repurpose, and how to milk every little bit of magic you can out of your podcast so you get the maximum result and the maximum business revenue, because that's why we do this. So let's kick off. Let me just test hold on a second. I'm just going to reshare my screen for 1 second because we're having a bit of a technical glitch, but bear with me.
Okay.
Let's see if this works again.
Here we go. Adding to the stage.
Make sure that comes back up.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so what we're going to cover today, why your business, or doesn't have to be a business, you might have a particular event or a particular passion or a particular community, something that you want to produce and something that you want to promote and something that you want to build a community around. It doesn't have to be a business. What technology, audio and visual, will you need to have your podcast and how much it will cost? We're going to go through this quite quickly because we want to get into most of the marketing stuff. How to prepare, produce your episodes, we'll touch that really quickly, but then how to promote your episode and get real business leads and referrals, how to extract marketing content in 5 different forms: audio, video, graphic, photo, and written, and how podcasting leads to incredible brand awareness, collaboration, and business results that you didn't see coming. So, a lot of the challenge that most people face when doing any form of marketing is that your ideal customers or your ideal audience doesn't know you exist. So what do we generally do when that happens? We start selling and we start trying to push our products and services because we want to make sales. But instead of selling, why don't we think about marketing? And it's a whole new paradigm shift. And then the other point is, even if you know about marketing, you think, oh yeah, I'm going to market instead of sell. We don't know how to go about that. And we don't know which platforms to use, what to do. So we're going to go through a bit of that today. So as everybody knows, marketing is all about attention. And that's why I put in my bio, I'm a student of human attention, because it really is about constantly thinking about where your audience lives. And that can change from day to day. So it's really about thinking, where does my target audience live? And how do I access and tap into that? So I'm going to go through 11 points as to why you should have a podcast. And this will kind of bring in a lot of the marketing aspects to this presentation as well. So first of all, a podcast allows you to deliver fresh and varied content to your target audience regularly. And I particularly like this when you have a guest. So a lot of the time people might want to have their show that's just them conveying certain knowledge. And I love that. But I think it's great to be able to bring in a guest episode once a week, once every 2 weeks, even once a month, because that allows you to extend and expand your target audience, because you're going to be showing new, fresh content, a new perspective. You're going to be tapping into that guest's audience. You're going to be tagging that guest on everything you do, like I did this morning with Aldwyn. We shared everything around. So you're getting a double whammy of getting fresh content, but the marketing aspect and the amplification of whatever you're doing because you have a guest. So very, very powerful to think about if you are having a podcast and you don't have any guests just yet. You can build your brand and generate business leads without actually push selling. It's not an aggressive sell. So what we're doing here right now is a very passive conversation, and we're inviting our guests and our audience in to listen. We're not heavily pushing a product or service. We're not promoting. We're just inviting you in. You're interested in podcasting? Are you interested to learn more about how to market? Come and join us. And that's the power of a podcast, because it's a nice, relaxed, passive conversation. And you don't have to put on the hard selling like a lot of people do when they don't have these other forms of marketing. So it's very, very powerful just from that point of view. As we mentioned, you gain access to incredible customers and potential prospects that you would not normally get access to. Another great strategy is to use a podcast as a business development tool. So say you are a business, or you might even be some kind of charity or some kind of other strategy that you're trying to execute, and you need to get in front of somebody. That person might not be that easy to get in front of. But when you have a podcast, all of a sudden you have this incredible tool or this incredible key that allows you to open up the door to a lot of interesting prospects and leads and different professionals that you would not normally get access to. Because if I ask somebody to come and join me on my podcast, 9 times out of 10, people say, absolutely, I will only be too happy to come and join you on your podcast. Everybody wants their 5 minutes of fame. Everybody wants more promotion. Everybody wants more marketing content now. So it's an incredible way to get more access to people that you would not normally be able to get access to. Very, very powerful. The other thing that I'm really big on is extracting marketing content from your podcast. Now, you're going to have a podcast, ideally, in my view, in audio and video form. And then you're going to be able to extract written content, audio content, video content, graphic content, and photo content, all from those 2 source files. So we've just taken a photo before this we can share around. There's a piece of graphic content or photo content. We can extract this, put it into Rev or Otter. We can get transcripts. There's a blog. There's written posts for your LinkedIn profile and your Instagram post that you might want to put together with a picture, or your Facebook audiogram. You're going to put that together with, you're going to mash up some of these episodes, and you can put little snippet videos and trailer videos and promo videos that you can use and put that all over your social media. And there's more and more products out there these days that allow you to use AI to do a lot of this hard lifting and heavy lifting and hard work for you. So there's a great product, for example, out in the market called Opus Pro. And if you can upload your video clip or a YouTube link, it will create 15 to 20 little 30-second video snippets and will rate them as to which ones will perform better than others according to its own algorithms. It will put on captions and it will put emojis, and that's done all the work for you in about 15 minutes. So you don't have to do any of that editing yourself. So there's lots of great AI tools now that will allow you to really take your marketing to the next level once you have those source files. So really, really important. As we mentioned at the beginning, you can leverage your guest's audience, and you can also start to brand and ask for referrals and put more potential customers to come to your show. So that's another great little marketing hack, because everybody is looking for guests and everybody's out there looking to connect with podcasters. You collaborate with other thought leaders and influencers and position yourself as an authority in your field. So right now, I've collaborated with Aldwyn, or Aldwyn's collaborated with me, and we're putting on this webinar, free webinar, but it's positioning me as a podcast specialist or strategist, because I'm presenting all my insights that I've gathered over the last 5-6 years and over close to 280 or so episodes. So just that alone can already position yourself ahead of your competition. Be creative. Podcasting is an incredibly creative medium. These days, you're dealing with all these great digital files, and you get to learn how to use them properly. And you can think about, how do I snip this? And how do I put it together with that? How do I put a graphic together with a one-liner? What else can I do with it? Can I turn it into a cartoon? Can I turn it into a little black and white photo? Can I turn it into a carousel? I mean, once you have these source files, or long form content, as we call it, you can then start extracting and repurposing it in a million different ways. And why I love this photo is that this guy's there holding up his muscles, is that creativity is a muscle. The more you practice, the more you exercise that muscle, the better you get. When I started, I had only a couple of ideas, but now that I do this every single morning, just about without fail, even on the weekend, I can, in half an hour, put together all sorts of stuff on a few different social media platforms. And I just come up with these ideas just like that, just come at me like lightning bolts, because I'm exercising my muscle every single day. You upskill and you get on top of the latest technology. So one thing about using a lot of this stuff is that you really are training yourself to move into the new world. Analog is gone. Digital is here. We're all using more and more digital technology, gadgets, platforms, and we have to start understanding how these things work, how to use these different files to be able to market our business in the future. And it's only going to get more complicated. So I think it's really important for people to start exercising, using a lot of this technology. You sharpen your communication skills. A lot of people might be scared to get up in front of an audience and talk, but a podcast is a great way to start practicing, because you're talking one-on-one. Then you might transition one day to doing live episodes or live events, which you can then sell tickets to, and you can sell merchandise and all sorts of things that you can market on top of that. So it's a great little way to just strengthen your communication skills. And who doesn't need better communication skills in both your private and your business life? This can help you in everything you do. And the better we are at communicating and articulating our messages, the better we can achieve whatever we need to achieve in this world. It's fun. We're having fun. It's very light. Using some graphics, telling a few jokes. It's a lot of fun, and you learn a hell of a lot as well. And that's basically brings me to my last point. In over 280 episodes, I've interviewed all sorts of people: coaches, marketing specialists, business entrepreneurs, health coaches, book launchers, musicians. And I have learned so much about so many different topics, which then allow me to then use that information when I'm in a conversation with my next guest and make that a richer, more powerful conversation for my audience. So those are just quick 11 tips as to why podcasting is so powerful and why I think everybody these days should have a podcast. And you don't have to go crazy and spend a lot of money or do it every single day, but it's something that you can definitely do at your own pace and enjoy the journey. So I'm just going to stop for 1 second and see if there's any questions. Just wanted to check. Aldwyn, anybody asking any particular questions? No, I think you're muted there, Aldwyn. I think you're muted there. Okay, you're back.
I was muted. Oh my gosh. I just said, I was just talking to myself. Yes, our guarded body here on guarded body on Instagram says, shit, I'll do it. Okay.
Oh, good.
Great. So great. You're ready to get out there with your podcast. Fantastic. Brilliant.
That.
And Bradley James on Facebook wants to connect. Thank you so much. Any questions you have around podcasting, let's put them to
pop them in the
Darren
chat, and happy to go answer those as we go.
A guarded body says, how do you start a podcast? Okay, great question. So Darren, how do you start?
Great question. Well, I'll hold that because I'm going to get to that right now for you. So make sure that I've answered that by the end. I'm going to go through that exactly that in about 2 minutes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, there's no other questions, so we'll keep going with the presentation.
Let's head back.
Steve's there. Hello, Steve on LinkedIn. He says, very useful advice. Thank you. Good to see you, Steve.
Gregory, good to see you, mate. Well done.
Long time no see, Steve.
Indeed. Awesome. So I'm going to go through a little bit about just some strategy before I get into exactly how you start your podcast, because I want to answer that question for our guest. But first of all, before you even start your podcast, you have to think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who your target audience is and where they live. Because marketing is all about strategy more so than just starting and waiting for things to happen and kind of tweaking as you go. It is about starting and learning as you go, but it's great to kind of have a little bit of forethought and preparation into how you're going to execute so that you at least limit any time wasting or any resource wasting along the way. So think about the platforms that you like to use, and you don't have to cover all of them. Aldwyn's amazing. She's on every single platform there is. But I usually stick to 3 or 4. I use YouTube, I use LinkedIn, I use Facebook, and I use my podcast apps and maybe a bit of Instagram. But everybody's got their own apps of choice or platforms of choice, and you don't have to be in all of them, but just know where your audience might live. If your audience might be a little bit more business driven, LinkedIn is a great place to be. If it's a little skewed a little younger, maybe TikTok might be better. There's different audiences and different platforms for everybody, so it's important to think about that. One thing I want to add is that an email signature, I like to think of as another platform. A lot of people forget about this. How many people receive emails from you every single day? And if you can use that little bit of real estate under your email signature, just with one link, keep it really simple, one message, one link, maybe a picture or something, that can already draw people to any particular page or website just by putting that in your email signature. So to me, that's another platform and it's something to think about. Now, as I've mentioned, forms of content, I like to break them up into 5 pieces: written, audio, video, graphic, and photo. But they can also be long and short forms of content, okay? And then the other thing that I really am passionate about is the ratio of content that you use in your promotion and marketing. I like to break this down into 3 parts. There's educational content, there's documentary content, and then there's promotional content. And the ratio that I like to use is 80% educational and or documentary, 20% promotional. So 1 in 5 posts are sales posts or promotional posts that might be promoting a webinar, promoting a course, promoting your business. The other 4 posts are going to be something along the lines of teaching your audience or giving some kind of information that will help your audience on their journey every day. And documentary is an example. We might be a shot of Aldwyn and I just about to go on this webinar, taking a photo, just about the launch, guys. Join us. That's just a little photo to say, here we are. We're about to go on a webinar. That's us. But I'm not selling anything. It's just a documentary behind the scenes. Think of what films and series and what they do when they release their whole marketing campaign for any film. Okay. So remember, really important, if you take nothing else from today, take this. 1 in 5 posts are promotional. 4 out of 5 posts give value. Very, very important mindset shift. When to post, there are no rules. Everybody's got a different strategy. Everybody's got a different rhythm. I don't get too bogged down into that. The key is make it consistent. Every day, a few times a day, or at least once a day, will do very, 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 give you great results. Okay. My little thing has frozen again. Bear with me, guys. Let me just re-share. This might happen a few times.
Okay.
Share
we've got
screen.
Steve asking while you're bringing that back up, what equipment do you need as well? So I presume you'll cover that.
Awesome, Steve. I'm going to get to that right now, very, very soon on our next slide, possibly. All right, good. Now, the other quick one, what genre do you want to specialize or a broad? I would generally recommend people using a specialized genre because it's going to be in line with what you do in your business. Again, we've discussed guest versus solo. I love solo episodes because you can learn a lot, but definitely try and add some guests if you can, because that allows you to tap into that marketing amplification potential. How do you find guests? Everybody always asks me, how do I find my guest? How do you get my guest, Darren? Friends, contacts, networking groups. There's so many of us here from the BX networking community, social media platforms, referrals. There are so many different ways to get guests. It's not funny. And when you start thinking about how to do that, you'll already have 10 or 20 episodes in the bag. And once you really do a great job, they will refer other people to you. So it's really simple to find guests. Just start off with the people that you already know, and you might be sitting next to you right now. Monetizing your podcast. I'm doing a whole webinar, free webinar coming up very, very soon on exactly this topic. But just to give you a little snippet, you can monetize in 2 different ways: direct monetization or indirect monetization. Direct monetization could be advertising, sponsorships, extra resources or early episodes that people pay for. And indirect could be just general brand awareness, interviewing prospects or business development, what I call it, merchandising, speaking and consulting, community memberships, getting on other podcasts and collaborating in some way. So there's all sorts of ways to make money indirectly. And that's usually what people do when they start, until they build a really big audience that you can start directly advertising into or creating sponsorships for. But there's a few different ways to monetize. And the other point is you don't have to monetize at the end. You can monetize right from the beginning. It's just how you start to frame that and strategize that to your audience. So to answer Steve's question, technology, really easy. There's great tools out there. What we're using right now is StreamYard. That's a great one. There's another great one called Riverside. But to this day, I've used a lot of those. And to this day, I still make it really simple, and I use Zoom. Because Zoom allows me to record an audio file and a video file. I then can go and throw those into my apps, audio app, and my YouTube channel. I've got a podcast. Bang. Right? And I've put a couple of extra little points here about where to house things. I'll jump to housing first. You can house it on Spotify for podcasters or Podbean. Those are 2 great places for your audio. And then that can be spat out to Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and all the others. Spotify for podcasters particularly will allow you to do that and distribute it. And from a video housing point of view, YouTube is definitely the way to go. If you want to do a little bit of editing, you don't have to, but if you want to get down that track later on, if you've got a Mac, things like GarageBand is great. Audacity can be used for Windows. And there's lots of other tools like iMovie and equivalents for Windows that are free, and you can use those for your editing as well. Not to mention all the great AI-driven products out there like Descript, Decipher. All these things are starting to use AI now to upload an episode, and they will do the entire workflow for you. They'll give you the transcripts, they'll give you the snippet videos, they'll give you the captions, they'll give you the graphics, the show notes. It's incredible what tools there are out there. So just so you know, it might seem overwhelming because you've got so much information and so many things to get your head around. There are all these great tools now that do it all for you. All you've got to do is make sure you've got your source podcast recorded. And that's why I would go to Zoom or StreamYard or Riverside, record your show, and you're up and running. Technology, microphones. Okay, if people want to know about microphones, I'll break it down really simply. There are two types of mics. The mic that I'm using is what we call a dynamic mic or a stage mic. And that mic has to be very close to your face because it only picks up just what's around here. But then if you have a studio mic or a condenser mic, it's much more sensitive, but it will also pick up background noise. So it all depends on where you're podcasting from. If you have a nice quiet room, a condenser mic is a great one. If you have a little bit of noise around you or you like to have that microphone in the image because it just looks fun, go with a dynamic mic, right? And there's lots of great stores that you can ring up and they can recommend different technology for you. If you're interested, I would recommend, if you're in Australia, I would recommend DJ City or Store DJ. You can give them a ring, tell them what you want to do. They'll consult with you and they'll deliver the mics to your door. Amazing and very, very low cost these days. An external webcam is great. At the moment, I'm even using my internal cam on my Mac, but an external webcam like a Logitech are really easy to use and really cost effective. And then you need a few lights. So you might need a couple of little ring lights on either side or some kind of light that lights you up evenly from the front. And you can buy those really cheaply on the internet. Kogan, Kmart, Target, JB Hi-Fi, loads of other products. So I hope that's kind of given you a little bit of insight into the tech. And that's just a picture of what I do. See, so I've got my ring lights, I've got my little camera on the top, and I've got my microphone, which is slightly on a boom arm to the side, and I bring it forward when I want to use it. And I'm podcasting at my desk, and nobody would ever know. I'm just going to jump into preparation. Very, very important. The more you prepare your episodes, the better. And the more you prepare your guest, the better, because you want to make sure that your guest is ready. The guest is not nervous. Your guest knows what they're going to be portraying and delivering. And then you're going to have a really powerful show. But as soon as your guest starts to get nervous and they start talking really fast, they might start going off on different tangents, and then your show can end up being a train wreck. So it's really, really important to prepare yourself, prepare your framework, prepare your guest, and that just allows for a nice, smooth execution of your podcast, and everybody's happy. If you're in media, like Aldwyn, I'm sure she'll tell you that everything in media is always prepared. You've always got a list of questions that you might want to ask. There's always a little bit of ad lib, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. It's not just turn on the camera and off we go. So what I've done for everybody, if you want to, and hold on, frozen again, bear with me, is I've prepared a little framework for people that I'll give you a link later on to download a lot of this stuff, and you can actually rebrand it yourself and turn it into whatever it is that you do for your podcast. So this is a great little PDF that I send to my guests. a 2-page PDF that asks them what I need to produce a show. And it also tells them a bit about how to light themselves and how to make sure they're in the right environment for a clean sound, etc., etc. And then the information that I get from that, I plug into this framework here, which is my episode framework, which I have on my screen or next to me while I'm in a show. And I'm going to give you this. If anybody wants it, I'll give you a link later on, and you can download all this for free. And just rebrand it and use it as you wish. So remember, podcasting gives you brand awareness, which is what we all need. We all need a brand. We all need marketing content as well. So it gives you brand awareness, but it gives you marketing material. And that's the really, really powerful thing about this. So I'm just going to stop there for 1 second and answer any questions. Anyone have anything particular that you want me to discuss? I think you're muted there, Aldwyn.
Yes, we do have Steve here. He's asking, do you recommend pre-prepared questions?
Good question. I have a framework, which I just shared, and I do have pre-prepared questions for me and for my guest. I might not use them verbatim, but number one, it allows my guest to prepare the material that they want to discuss. So even if I go off at a slight tangent, they're usually prepared for the questions that I'm going to ask. And if they do go off on a few tangents, I can bring them back because I have my questions in front of me ready to go. So I use prepared questions, not to run with it absolutely verbatim and be really strict, but it just gives me a nice framework so I don't allow the episode to be hijacked, and it just has a nice flow. So I think preparing is really, really important.
Fantastic. Great. Yes, great question. Steve says, very generous. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for joining us today. We love to make this interactive. I can see we've got Karen Clark has joined us on Instagram. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. We've got May Deluxe Lounge has also joined us. Hello, hello. And of course, Guarded Body. And who else is with us? Let us know. If you've got any questions, comments on what you've heard so far, please pop those in the chat as well. We'd love to hear from you on any of that as well. Comments, questions, more than welcome today on this interactive masterclass. And we have a few more slides to share, I believe, as well. Darren?
We do. Let me make sure. Let me just reshare those, because every now and again when we freeze, we lose our sharing. So back, share screen. Okay. There we go. Perfect. All right, guys. So we've got about 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to go through a little bit more. Let me just make sure this is working. Hold on. I might have to try that one more time, Aldwyn. Bear with me.
Okay. Uno momento.
Screen. Un momento, por favor. Share screen. Let's try that again.
Here we go.
StreamYard is our good friend today. All right, great stuff. So in terms of production, I'm not going to go into this in a lot of detail. I've given you a little bit of insights into the tech and the housing and editing platforms, but really easy to do. And the more practice you have, the better you get. And there's lots of tools to help you as well. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But now I'm going to get into the real nitty-gritty of this, marketing. So you have a podcast. So what? Now, what are you going to do with it? That's the key to this whole presentation. You might have the best podcast, the best guests, the best content, and nobody knows it exists. So we have to get it out there into the world. And this is the real power in terms of what podcasting can achieve. So I'm going to go through some of these ideas for you. So I like to think of my podcast as a very important pillar in my wider social media marketing strategy. Because as I mentioned, everybody is now in a war or a battle for content. It's a battle for eyeballs. It's a battle for attention. Everybody is headline readers, and we need to grab people's attention, eye contact really, really quickly. And we have to use the content that we have in the most creative way possible to do that. So a podcast, again, gives you all those different forms of content, written, photo, graphic, audio, screenshot to allow you to use in a creative way to grab people's attention. You can create caricatures. You can create video snippets. You can create audiograms. You can create long form blogs and articles. You can create something for your newsletter as well. There's no end to what you can do. So I like to think of your podcast as a very important part of your social media strategy. But then I don't want to exclude traditional marketing methods like your newsletter. And I believe these days as well, being that social media is getting noisier and noisier, it's very important to use them. But it's also important to start thinking about how you can get in front of your audience in a traditional sense as well. And I think that newsletters are coming back as well, but they've got to be done really, really well. They've got to be done effectively. It's got to be done again with the same theory as I initially taught this morning, 80% value, 20% sell. So if you can think about the same strategy for your newsletters, that will help you a lot as well. And use a lot of the marketing material and the podcast material that you've recorded in your newsletters. Now, the other thing to think about is think of your podcast like your film or your TV series or your radio show. When Mission Impossible comes out or a big blockbuster movie comes out, they go through 6 to 8 to 12 months of promotion before they even release the film. They start in January and they release it in December. So this is what you can do. You don't have to spend a whole year. I wouldn't recommend spending a year before you launch your podcast, but use that strategy to lead up to the episodes. Do a little video. We're about to go live. Next week, we're going to go live with this person. Do a little video. Do a little vlog post. Take a photo. So start thinking about how you can leverage the whole journey of your podcast and not just the podcast itself. Leverage the pre-podcast, the podcast, and the post-podcast, if you want to think of it that way. Think about how you can leverage the whole process of recording in your show, and that will give you much more content and much more room for promotion and marketing of your brand, because that's what we're all here to do. We're here to promote our brand, right? Promote the lead up to your episodes, promote greatest hits, all sorts of, put like with like. You can do mashups of all sorts of things. It's amazing what you can achieve. You can stream live, like what we're doing right now. You can mix it up. Sometimes you can record and edit. Sometimes you can stream live. You can stream live to Facebook, to LinkedIn, just with StreamYard. So it's amazing. As I mentioned 100 times, and you can see the theme, you extract as many forms of content as you can from your marketing material and your podcast material. This is the real power. And you leverage your episodes. You don't just post them once, you repost them and repost them and repost them again and again and again in a slightly different way. So anybody that plugs into my program and comes on my show, one thing that I do is I re-promote those episodes constantly every 3 or 4 or 5 weeks in a different way. And I have a whole cycle of how I continue to revisit those episodes to give my guests the most brand awareness and the most marketing power they can. So never just use anything once. It's all about leverage, leverage, leverage. I can't stress that enough. Make sure you tag as many guests and collaborators in each post as possible. Again, that's going to bring you more marketing power and amplification because you're going to have your marketing material and your brand in front of more people. Really important to do. Never forget. Now, the other thing that I really love to do is use Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Instead of trying to recreate the wheel and say, all right, I'm just starting my podcast, I don't have an audience. Yes, you do. Your audience can be anyone who listens to podcasts or anyone who works in a particular field or anyone who might be in a group that is related to what you do. And you can find those groups with hundreds of thousands of people on social media, on LinkedIn and Facebook in particular, and post and tap into those groups by sharing your valuable content and your podcast episodes on those groups, thereby attracting and drawing out those people to your page and to your brand and to your profile and to your podcast. So instead of trying to recreate the wheel, think about where do they already go and try and tap into that source and bring them over to you, right? So really, really powerful. And every day that I look on social media, I'm finding more and more groups that I'm just tapping into because the podcast community is growing rapidly, right? If you want to start doing a little bit of paid advertising, you can. And I would recommend just a very low cost Facebook/Instagram or Meta campaign, $5 a day. You can target certain people. AI does a great job now of targeting your audience for you, and you can put out your episodes, and you never know what that can lead to. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to advertise as well, and it's even a more targeted approach because you can put your content in front of exactly who you'd like to be, from the industry to the company to the title, but it costs a little bit more than Facebook and Instagram. But if you have a little bit of marketing budget and you wouldn't mind trying it, I think it's a very powerful strategy because it's even more targeted, but slightly more expensive. You can do a great contra deal where you might invite a podcast onto your show and they might invite you onto their show, thereby doubling up on your marketing material, doubling up on your audience and your amplification again. You can rebrand those episodes as your own with permission. You've got another episode and you've just tapped into loads of other guests that you might never have had access to before. Make sure you link to the audio and video podcasts in your website, your newsletter, and your email signature, right? Really, really powerful. So don't think about things only in terms of social media. Think about things in terms of traditional marketing. Even if you want to go as far as a letter drop, I might not recommending that, but go all the way back to basics and think about how did we market before technology? Can I use this in some way? Can I put my business card or my flyer for my podcast on my cafe across the road, on the window? Who knows? Think about all the different ways to market and not just only social media. Social media is very powerful and I highly recommend it, but it's just one of the pillars that you can use to market your show and market your business and bring you results. All right? Mention your podcast to everyone. Everyone that hears, I have a podcast. Oh, wow. Everybody wants to talk about your podcast. Oh, what's it about? How many shows have you done? Can I come on? Can I be a guest? How do you record? Everybody's fascinated. And if people are not ready to take the plunge and have their own show, they are very ready to come on someone else's show. So thereby bringing you numerous guests to invite onto your show as well. So just mentioning that you have a podcast can already set up your show for the next 6 to 12 weeks, right? Yep, I'm frozen.
I'm
Any
loving
questions?
this, by the way, Darren. This is brilliant. Any questions, comments from Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X? Let us know. Any questions or comments? I just want to mention, I was shocked when I looked at the stats on podcasts. Now, there are 800,000 podcasts back in 2018, right? About 500,000 or so, 500 to 800,000. Now there's over 5 million podcasts globally. It's gone through the roof. However, not a lot of them are actually active podcasts. So, for example, there's 71 million episodes right now in podcast feeds, 2.6 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts. And out of those 2.6 million podcasts on Apple, there's around 455,000 active podcasts. So that's less than 1/5, so less than 20%. So I'd say around 15% or so are actually active podcasts. So isn't that interesting? Like the lack of resilience out there, or for whatever reason, people start a podcast and they think they're going to be an overnight sensation and suddenly they stop it, right? And so I'd love to talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. I'm glad that you brought that up. Absolutely. A lot of people start a podcast. They do 10 episodes or 20 episodes, and they say, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere. It's not bringing me any results. I give up, forget about it. And that's where a lot of those stats come from. There's millions of podcasts, but half of them don't go above episode 15 or 20. And so my first point is that this is a long game. This is not a game that you can win in 6 months. You've got to be prepared to put out the episodes consistently, build your audience, build trust, build credibility, get better, and have fun. But it's a long game. You know, you're going to get better in how you market as well. You're going to get better in how you promote, in how you access other audience members. You're going to get better at everything that you do. So if you're not going to do this properly and think about doing this for the long term, don't even start, honestly. And that brings me to my next point: is if you're not going to, if you feel that that's going to be too much for you, then here's a great strategy for you. Find yourself loads of podcasts to go on and record. Make sure you record, or someone records those for you, and ask them for the raw files. Then once you've got the raw files, you can then go and plug them into all those different technology and products and apps that I mentioned and create your own marketing content. You did that without even having your own show. So number one, great to have your own show. Highly recommend it. But if you really feel that it's not going to be something that you can commit to, let it go and get yourself on everybody else's show. Take the content, make lots of marketing content out of it, and turn it into a marketing machine, and you'll get a very, very similar result. So really, really powerful. And something that I've just done myself is I've gone to a great freelancer on Upwork, and she's a podcast booking agent. And I said, here's a deal. Let's do a deal. I want you to book me on lots of podcasts. And she's booked me on like so many podcasts already that I've already go, and I do exactly that myself. I take the raw files, start chopping them up, and I use them in my own marketing, right? So you can think like a marketer and have incredible marketing potential, even as a guest, not even having your own show. So there's a little bit of hopefully an aha moment for people that were thinking, oh, this is sounding like a lot of work. There's a little hack for you where you can actually do that without having the trouble of having your own show.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although if you do have your own show, then you have more bargaining power as much as you can exchange shows with people. Because when you have your own show, it's amazing how many people approach you wanting to be on your show. Like I get it all the time, right?
Absolutely.
And you know, I mean, that's fine because we're always looking for guests as well. But you know, always I would suggest if you are going to pitch yourself to a podcast, always look at how you can be of service. What are you going to offer for that particular audience? You know, how can you create a win-win scenario or create some sort of energetic exchange? If you're going to be interviewed on someone's podcast, maybe you could offer them something in return. You know, maybe you could promote them out to your list or to your people, or do some kind of energetic exchange, right? Don't always be like, oh, can I be a guest? Can I be a guest? Can I be a guest? Kind of thing.
Yep.
You know, it's important to always look at what you can give and what you can offer. And if you are going to be a guest, well, maybe you can give a special offer to the viewers or listeners of that show. And of course, podcast, generally people think audio podcast, although of course, you know, what we're doing here is a video podcast or a vodcast. With a V, a vodcast, which is also a podcast as well, because we strip the audio and we also have it as a pure audio file for the different learning styles out there. Some people prefer to watch, some people prefer to listen, and then we get the transcript and repurpose that as well. So I see there's quite a few people joining us live here. And hello to Dame and Dharma. Good to see you. We've got TJ21016 on Instagram. We've got Rafael Port. Hello. And those on Facebook. Steve, thanks for your comments there. Oh, Steve's got something here. When we are only interested in something we do that's convenient, when we are committed, we do whatever it takes. I'll read that again. When we are only interested in something, when we're only interested in something, we do what's convenient. When we are committed, we do whatever it takes. Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely. Love the reminder about the need for both consistency and commitment. Yes. Thank you, Steve. That's a great point. Absolutely. And there's another great saying that it takes a lifetime to be an overnight success. Right? It takes a lifetime.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
It takes a lot of work. We've been at it a while.
We're waiting to be discovered.
Waiting patiently.
I'll keep waiting.
Yeah, you got to have fun with the journey, though. That's the thing, right? You got to have 100%. Fun with it, I believe. If you're just doing it because you just want followers or you just want more business, I don't think that's the right reason to start a podcast. I mean, yes, that will come as a result of that, but, you know, always look at how you can be of service. You know, there's no greater purpose than being of service? How can you be of service? And then, of course, the money will come. Love what you do, the money will come, of course. So we've got Robin with us. Hello, Robin Woodford. Good to see you. Any questions, comments around podcasting? We are taking them now. Have we got some more slides there, Darren? Should we see if we can
I think we've probably got one more slide to go through, and I think then we're done. So let me just, I'll just make sure that we've given everybody everything they need.
Wonderful. And in the meantime, for those watching live, you have any questions, comments that you'd like to add around podcasting, anything you'd like to know at all, let us know in the comments and we'll address that in the live show. All right, let's see what we've got on the slides.
Perfect. All right, great. So this pretty much, we've discussed a lot of this right now, but I'll go through it really quickly because I want to give 5 minutes or so for Q&A. Again, platforms, we've discussed this before. Find where your audience lives and work those platforms. You don't have to be across the whole world. And particularly as you start slow and build accordingly. You might build a team around you that can help you with a bit of that later on, but you don't have to tackle the whole world. What's that saying? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. You don't have to go crazy. Some people talk about planning or scheduling posts or not. Again, it's your choice. I like to do it myself every day because I stay consistent in my flow of what I've done the day before. And I'm also a little bit more in sync with what's happening in the world around me. So I like to do that, but some people like to schedule. We've just discussed video. I think it's really important these days and moving forward. Video is the new frontier. A podcast audio version is great, but if you can add video and you're not too worried about being in front of the camera, very, very important. There's a great little saying that I read once, or that I heard on another podcast, and it said, connections are formed in the cracks. So it's basically saying, be humble, be human, make mistakes, allow your audience to understand and get in touch with the real you. Look at this presentation. It's fantastically professional, but my little presentation didn't work every single time, so I had to reboot it, but I don't think anybody worries about it. It's part of the fun. Build your marketing muscle. Make sure you practice and practice and practice. This stuff doesn't come just like that. You've got to do the work, and you've got to do that every day. There's a fantastic book and a fantastic saying by Michael Masterson. It says, ready, fire, aim. And instead of saying ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, aim. And what is that saying? That is saying, don't get caught up and be paralyzed by perfection. Start, learn what the audience is giving you in terms of feedback, and then tweak as you go. You don't have to have it all worked out before you start, because you'll never start. And the other big word for me from today to leave you with is leverage. Leverage every single thing. Leverage every relationship. Leverage every piece of content. Leverage every comment, leverage everything you could think of, leverage your testimonials. So I hope that's kind of helped you guys and given you some ideas as to how to set up your podcast, but more importantly, how to market your podcast. Because if you don't have a marketing strategy, your podcast doesn't really exist and it doesn't fall on enough people and enough audience. So I'd love to hand over to any Q&A, and over to you, Aldwyn.
Wonderful. Well, that was brilliant. Can we have a big round of applause for Darren? Yay. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much. Some fantastic words of wisdom there. And of course, I can tell you love doing podcasts, Darren, because it shines through when you do your interviews. And how many episodes have you done now of yours?
So I've got 2 podcasts. I've got one that's up to 20 something and one that's on 60 something.
Wow.
So
amazing.
I'm getting there.
Tell us about your podcast for those who want to tune in.
Yeah, sure. So everybody can check out my main podcast. Is called Playing with Perspective, and you can find that on Spotify, on Google, on Apple. It's on my website, which is just suspendedanimation.com.au. You can link to everything in there. And we just talk about all sorts of different topics. We've got finance, mortgage broking, book launches, health, motivation, mindset, hypnotherapy, you name it. There's an episode about something on there.
Yeah, love it. And you'll find one with me in there too from way back.
And Aldwyn's been on there. Absolutely, she has. A few times possibly.
Yeah. And we've got some other interviews with Darren as well. on some of our shows, so check those out. And I love that ready, fire, aim. That is very cool, I must
Yep,
say,
I love
because
that.
there's a great saying, don't let perfectionism get in the way of progress. And I don't know how many people
Yep,
I've spoken to that said, oh, I haven't got my website ready, I haven't got this ready, and it's just like every
yep,
excuse under the sun. It's either results
yep,
or reasons, my friends, results or
that's
reasons
right.
why we do or don't do things. And what I love about podcasts and vodcasts, and that what I love is that you're leaving a legacy every single time you do a show.
Yeah,
Every time you interview someone, you're leaving a legacy. We don't know if that person's going to be here tomorrow or
powerful.
not.
Yep,
Recently I actually interviewed my dad. And it was a very moving interview. I thought, well, I want to capture some of my dad's story on video. And often when people pass, we might have a few photos to remember them by. But if people are sort of shy and getting on camera, then we're going to have no video footage. And really, they say a photo is worth 1,000 words, video is worth 1,000,000 words. Video is so incredibly powerful to really feel like you're with someone in the room. It's like, and now with the online world, of course, we have TV on all our devices, right? This is how we're doing modern TV is like this. And
streaming and everything's on demand.
yeah, everything's on demand. Absolutely. And, you either move with the times and, adapt to these strategies of getting out there and build your expert authority through doing your own show, or you can, be a guest on other people's shows. Of course, there's plenty of opportunities for that as well. I was just on 3 podcasts this morning, actually, from 4 a.m. to 7
Oh my
a.m.
God, wow.
I'm starting to feel a little bit of like after lunch raid starting to happen. And I've done thousands of interviews and I still don't get it perfect every time. And I still, like today, I had the mute button on a few times because I've got background noise going on, right? And so I've been muting myself. And of course I spoke over the mute a few times, right? And it happens, right? It doesn't matter how
It's
experienced
all part of the fun, and I think that's what gives it the character as well. It gives your show the character.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and we're not gonna stop this and pre-record it and do it all over again
No,
just because of those few little things, right? Whereas some people
no,
might. Some
no.
people might go, "Oh no, we can't have that. Oh no, that bit's stuffed up
Yep.
there. No, I can't do that." So just notice, my friends, just notice if you've been stopping yourself, if you've been, any imposter syndrome or excuses have been coming up for you as to why you don't want to start your own show, or maybe why you don't want to get out more as a guest on other people's shows. Then just notice if you're playing a small game there, right? Because I'm sure you do have a great story to share. I'm sure everyone watching this, I'm sure you have a great story or message to share, and it's all a choice as to how much you get it out there. So it's interesting that your photography background, Darren. What made you initially start your show with the photography? How did you first start?
Because I was doing a lot of work and I thought, you know what, traditional ways of building relationships and getting new business wasn't really working. Cold calling doesn't work anymore. Letter drops don't work. Putting an ad in the local newspaper. So I started to stumble on digital marketing and podcasting. And I thought, you know what, let's give this a go. And I thought, what the hell? And I'm the type of person that says, sounds like it makes sense. Just start, see what happens. And I did, and I just never looked back. And it just grew from strength to strength. And I loved it so much that I keep going, and I now help other people do the same thing.
I love it. And that's right. There is a changing world of media. Once upon a time, 20 years ago, you'd put one story in the local paper and you'd be able to fill events.
That's right.
Nowadays, things have certainly changed a lot because now we have millions of media outlets. We don't just have a few people dictating all the news. Now we have people that are becoming their own news channels and then their own news outlets. And now I believe you're going to go into more detail. You've got a free webinar coming up, Darren. Can we share about that?
So I've got a couple of giveaways, if I may. I'll just give everybody the info, and hopefully Aldwyn will pop those in the chat for everybody. So if anybody wants to learn more about how to start your podcast, I've got a fantastic 45-page booklet that I'm going to give you for free with all those little templates and frameworks. And we've got the link there. It's just called the Ultimate Podcast Guidebook. And then I've also got coming up on the 26th of July, a monetization webinar, about an hour and a half or so, where I'm going to go into a lot more detail into some of those different ways to monetize your podcast from an indirect and a direct way anywhere on your podcast journey. You don't have to be 50 episodes in to start monetizing. You can do it right from the get-go. You just got to be creative in how you do it. So that's going to be on the 26th of July. That's free. So there's those two links there. Feel free to join us. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Only too happy to help.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Darren. Very generous, I must say. And if you can't see those links wherever you're tuning in right now, then don't worry. They'll be in soon after the show. We share all those links across. They are definitely in Facebook. The comments don't go to all the streams at once automatically through this platform. So we do it manually afterwards. So tune in there and you'll be able to catch that. But for those on the audio, what's your general website that they can just connect with you anyway, Darren?
Yeah, great. Just go to suspendedanimation.com.au and just click on the podcasting tab, and then you can find all the information and everything that I do in there.
suspendedanimation.com.au. And of course, Darren's joining us from Sydney in Australia. And I'm on the Gold Coast. Sydney was my old hometown. I miss Sydney. I do go a few times a year. And look forward to coming back there. Any comments, questions? Let us know what you got out of the show. For those tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments. What have you got out of this show? What have you enjoyed about this show so far? What have you learned? Any questions at all as well? If you tag us after the show even, I'm sure we could get back to your questions as well after the show. And nowadays, Darren, your podcast platform, how long do you do your podcast for, and how often do you do your podcast nowadays?
Yeah, so I generally podcast once a week. That's generally my cadence that I have time for. And I use YouTube as my main video housing. And I've got two podcasts, as I mentioned. So I have one on Anchor, or now it's called Spotify for podcasters. And the other one's on Podbean. So those two platforms are really great. And once a week gives me a nice flow, and you can produce it to the hilt, or you can keep it really raw and simple, and you can just keep going and learn as you go. You don't have to. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting. It's not like a Hollywood production. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it out there, share your message, and you can produce or not produce to your heart's content.
Yeah, I love that. And what's the main difference for those wondering between Anchor, which of course got bought out by Spotify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between, say, Spotify and Podbean. Why would you be on both?
They're both great. And Anchor I probably would use as a first choice, because Anchor's got a lot of great tools. Or up to this point, they have done a little bit of a deal with Riverside now. And so they're bringing in some collaboration tools with Riverside. And up till now, you could record your intros and outros, interludes, put music behind them, do all sorts of things in Anchor platform itself. So I'm not sure if they're still going to do that with Riverside, but I'm assuming they must have some kind of way to do that. Or they've even plugged together with Riverside, which also gives you all that great workflow and AI-driven stuff that Riverside gives you. So Anchor's done a really good job of really building a nice, all-encompassing platform for podcasting. But Podbean is also a great one. And when I started, I couldn't have two podcasts on the same place. So that's why I had to do one of each. But maybe now you can. But as a second one, I highly recommend Podbean. It's a great interface. And there's lots of other great tools in there as well. But there's others. There's so many. It's not funny. But those two are my favorites.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So check them out, Podbean and Spotify. I can see we've got Mark Corner's joined us, Lee Brownless. Hello. Good to see you there. And it's been a wonderful show, Darren. I must say, I can keep chatting to you all day. I love your expertise and knowledge in this area. And you do have a short course too that you have, I noticed, on your website. Could you tell us a bit about that one?
I do, yeah. So if anybody's interested in learning, I've just launched a recorded course in 4 sessions. So very, very good value. It's $99. And it's it's a recorded course of me doing a live training in over 4 sessions with a group of people. And you can go through every single step in getting your podcast running from A to Z. Well, we produce the show in there. We promote the show in there. We prepare. We do everything. And you can go along that journey at your own pace and have your podcast up and running in 4 sessions. So that's on my website as well.
Fantastic. So check that out over there, suspendedanimation.com.au. And is there anything else you want to share about podcasting before I share how people can connect with me, Darren?
I would just say, guys, there's obviously a lot of interest in podcasting. There always is. And there's a lot of people that are kind of on the edge and they're not quite sure. But I would say use that quote in your mind: ready, fire, aim. Don't think about it too much. Get out there, record an episode, see if you like it, see what happens, throw it out there, get some feedback, and you might be very surprised at the result, and you might never look back like I did. So just don't be paralyzed by wondering what if. Just start, have some fun. And if you don't like it, no problem. If you do like it, great.
Absolutely. And you might just find your voice amongst it, because in the taking action, actually, once you get that momentum going, it's amazing what can come from that. So definitely give it a go, and we'll see if you're going to be one of the 20% that keep going after 10 shows, right? Let's see. Yep. However, just starting would be fantastic. Okay. So just get something out there, share your voice, share your message. And if you can interview people as well, you'll find it'll be a lot easier to do it that way. And you're also helping to leverage other people's networks, and you're helping to share other people's stories as well, which is really wonderful. And I absolutely love it. As you can tell, I could do this all day, every day. Love doing interviews and love sharing stories. And in fact, some of the people I've interviewed have now passed away, like Michael D'Amico Rowland, for example. He was one of the foundation personal development guys back in the 90s, early 2000s. Amazing guy, and he passed away suddenly. I've got 2 interviews with him online. And many others, some phenomenal people that I have interviewed over time on Media Queen TV. So I do recommend that you check out my YouTube channel, Media Queen TV there, or Aldwyn Altuney, Media Queen TV. Just Google my name and you'll see it there. And over 1,200 videos there now online. And for those who want to connect with me, of course, you can just go to my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Aldwyn. I've got a free webinar coming up on Thursday at 12 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time called How to Build a Global Brand. And of course, podcasting is a great way you can do that, how to build a global brand. So check it out. The link is in my link tree, and just make sure you register so you get the Zoom link. Hello, Shane Hunter Comedy is with us. I must say I love comedy. There's some cool comedy in my YouTube channel, actually, you might want to check out as well. And all my socials are on that link as well. And we do have every single month the Global Good News Challenge as well, where you can share gratitude and good news and help to lift your energy and lift the energy of people around you, and also to help decrease depression and suicide rates by getting into gratitude. And I'm so grateful for you today, Darren. Thank you so much for coming on our special.
And feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And I really enjoy everybody there that's turned up to listen. And hopefully we've given you some insights and some ideas that you can use.
Yes, thank you so much. Please let us know in the comments. What did you get out of this? What's some gold nuggets you've picked up today? What have you learned about podcasting? And if you've really enjoyed this, share the love. Share the love, subscribe, like our stuff, follow us, do all that stuff. And even give us a review. That'd be cool. Give us a review if you really enjoyed it. Steve says, thank you. He had to race off. I know Steve really enjoyed it. And he says, very generous. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for everyone who's joined us live. Many blessings to you. Thanks once again, Darren. Connect. And thank you so much for your generosity, Darren, with that wonderful gift there as well. Check out the links in the chat. And we'll be back here sometime soon with the Media Queen TV. Be seen with the Media Queen. Thank you so much once again, Darren. And thank you for joining us, everyone live.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.